He said he was confused. He said he needed time. He said he didn't know what he wanted. He said he wasn't ready for something serious. And you believed him. You gave him space. You gave him patience. You gave him understanding. You told yourself love takes time. You told yourself pressure ruins good things. You convinced yourself that confusion is normal, but listen carefully. Confusion does not look like consistency when it benefits him. He may have been confused about committing, but he was never confused about texting you late at night. He was never confused about calling when he felt lonely. He was never confused about coming over when it suited him. He was never confused about accepting your emotional support. Strange how confusion disappears when access is involved. This is where many women get trapped. They confuse hesitation with uncertainty. They think if he hasn't decided yet, he must be processing feelings. But most of the time, he wasn't confused. He was comfortable. Comfortable having you without choosing you. There's a difference. Real confusion creates distance. Control disguised as confusion creates proximity without commitment. If a man truly doesn't know what he wants, his behavior reflects that. It becomes inconsistent across the board. He pulls back fully. He becomes unavailable. He removes himself while he figures it out. But when a man says he's confused while still keeping you close, still enjoying your attention, still maintaining emotional and physical access, that's not confusion. That's leverage. Pay attention to the pattern. He keeps the door slightly open, not wide enough for security, not closed enough for closure, just enough for you to stay hopeful. Hope is powerful, and he knows that. The second thing you need to understand is mixed signals are not accidental. They are strategic. One day he's warm. The next day he's distant. One week he talks about the future. The next week he says he doesn't want labels. That emotional push and pull creates instability, and instability creates obsession. When something feels uncertain, your brain works harder to solve it. You replay conversations, you analyze tone, you search for hidden meaning, you try to decode behavior. Inconsistency keeps you hoping. It makes you believe there's something real underneath the distance. It convinces you that if you just stay patient a little longer, clarity will arrive. But clarity delayed for months is not confusion, it's decision avoidance. And decision avoidance benefits him more than you, because while you're waiting for clarity, he's receiving comfort. He's receiving validation. He's receiving loyalty without responsibility. This is where emotional limbo becomes control. He never closes the door because that would risk losing you, but he never fully opens it because that would require choosing you. So you stay in between. You don't feel secure enough to relax, but you don't feel dismissed enough to leave. That middle space is exhausting, and it's designed to be. When you finally ask for clarity, notice what happens. Suddenly, you're the one rushing. You're the one pressuring. You're the one overthinking. The conversation flips. Instead of discussing his indecision, you're defending your need for certainty. Blame shift is one of the oldest control tactics in relationships. You're moving too fast. Why can't you just enjoy the moment? Why do you need a label? These statements sound reasonable on the surface, but underneath, they serve one purpose: to maintain the current dynamic without committing to it. If he truly valued you the way you valued him, clarity would not feel like pressure. It would feel natural. Here's a truth many women resist at first. Men know when they want someone, not always immediately, not always dramatically, but they know. When a man truly wants a woman in his life, he doesn't risk losing her through prolonged confusion. He doesn't gamble her presence while he figures things out for months. He may move carefully, he may move thoughtfully, but he moves forward. When movement never comes, that's not confusion, that's calculation. Calculation of how much he can receive without fully investing. And this is the hardest part to accept. You weren't waiting on clarity. You were waiting on him to value you the way you valued him. But value is revealed through action, not potential. And once you step back and look at the full picture, the pattern becomes clearer. He didn't wake up confused every morning. He woke up comfortable, comfortable knowing you would answer, comfortable knowing you would understand, comfortable knowing that even without commitment, he still had access. That's not emotional uncertainty. That's emotional control. Now, here's something important. Control in relationships doesn't always look aggressive. It doesn't always look like shouting or direct manipulation. Sometimes it looks soft. It looks patient. It looks calm. It looks like someone saying, I just need more time. But time without progress is not reflection. It's delay. And delay benefits the person receiving more than they're giving. You were investing emotionally. He was sampling emotionally. You were building. He was browsing. That's why the confusion narrative works so well, because it keeps you compassionate. It keeps you understanding. It makes you feel like the mature one for not forcing anything. But while you were being patient, he was being selective, selective about when to show up, selective about when to disappear, selective about when to reassure you just enough to keep you from leaving. This is the psychology behind intermittent reinforcement, one of the strongest attachment triggers in human behavior. When someone gives you affection inconsistently, your brain becomes more attached than if they were consistently good or consistently bad, because unpredictability creates craving. It makes you chase the good moments harder. He didn't have to control you loudly. He controlled you through uncertainty, and uncertainty makes strong women question themselves. You started asking, am I expecting too much? Am I rushing things? Maybe he just needs space. Maybe I'm being dramatic. This is where self-doubt slowly replaces clarity. And once you doubt yourself, you lower your standards just enough to stay. But here's the truth that sets everything straight. If he wanted to be with you, confusion wouldn't last this long. If he truly valued you, your presence wouldn't be treated like an optional benefit. If he saw a future, you wouldn't be asking for reassurance repeatedly. Men who are serious remove ambiguity. They don't protect it. And when a man protects ambiguity, it's usually because it serves him. Now let's shift something important. You weren't stupid. You weren't naive. You weren't desperate. You were hopeful. And hope is not weakness, it's human. But hope without evidence turns into self-betrayal. The moment you start ignoring patterns to protect potential, you begin abandoning yourself. So what do you do when you realize he was never confused? You stop explaining yourself. You stop trying to convince him that you're worth choosing. You stop proving. You stop over-communicating. You stop giving emotional benefits without emotional security, because access without accountability teaches someone they can keep both freedom and comfort. The second shift is removing emotional access. If he says he doesn't know what he wants, believe him. Not angrily, not dramatically, just calmly, and adjust your availability accordingly. No more late-night emotional support. No more relationship-level loyalty without relationship-level commitment. No more girlfriend energy for someone who hasn't chosen you. The third shift is observing action, not language. Words can stretch indefinitely. Maybe, soon, let's see. I just need time. Time for what? If time passes and nothing changes, time was never the solution. Behavior reveals intention faster than promises ever will. And the final shift, and the most powerful one, is being willing to walk away from ambiguity. The moment you remove yourself from the gray area, clarity appears instantly. Either he steps forward clearly or he steps back completely. But either way, you're no longer stuck in the middle, because the middle is where confusion survives. And here's the empowerment piece most people miss. When you stop accepting confusion, you stop attracting men who rely on it. Your standards become visible. Your energy becomes different. You don't entertain half decisions anymore. You don't romanticize hesitation. And that shift alone filters out a lot of emotional games. In the end, he wasn't confused. You were patient, you were understanding, you were hopeful. But patience without boundaries turns into tolerance. And tolerance of ambiguity keeps you small. The moment you decide that clarity is non-negotiable, the right kind of man will respond with certainty, not hesitation. Because the right man doesn't need months to decide if you matter. He just needs the courage to choose.